Right, let's introduce the panel. First of all, a man who has won 6 Cheltenham Festival races. He's won a Ryanair. He's won one of the crappy hurdles. But he's also won, well, other than decking Q card, he's won the Cheltenham Gold Cup. It's Paddy Brennan.
Flight maybe. What's the Wi-Fi?
Paddy's not had a cheer like that since he retired and the weighing room said goodbye. Right, my next special guest tonight is a lady who used to ride horses very well, in fact. Simon Ned Crisford used to use her. The daughter of the champion trainer, Paul Nicholls, but most importantly now, the new Tom Malone. If any of you have got 500 grand you want to lose, she's the person to give it to. Meg Nicholls.
God's sake.
Hey, do you want Rich here? Do you want Rich here?
No, I don't want that chap. Right, next up is a man who trains lots of good horses. He knows how to win at Cheltenham, and he's got some very interesting runners this week. It's Ben the Boy Pauling.
Charles, don't worry about it. Very kindly got and get it. Thank you.
Have you done any yet with him hosting?
Huh?
Have you done any yet with him hosting?
Our next guest is basically the reason I know that 99.9% of you are here. Because he's one of the most popular owners in the business. He's had the lows and he power. Ooh. But he's also had all the big highs. Faheen the Machine, Ricci. Here he is, the one and only, yes, Rich the Man Ricci. And finally, the man who'll be giving you more winners than anyone during Cheltenham Week. Cheers. You'll find him in the paper every single day. Some of you won't know what he looks like. He's a substantial figure in the flesh. Templegate.
He does this.
Not the biggest chair I've ever heard, but obviously on a good run at the moment. Right, ladies and gents, thanks for joining us. I was going to get the elephant out of the room straight away, but I'm just going to let Rich have a couple more glasses before we get on to Lossy Mouth, which is basically, all of you are here just to hear about Lossy Mouth, but I'm just going to let you ease into Lossy, Rich, and we'll come to that hopefully a little later on when you're absolutely lathered and you can chat more freely. So we're going to go through all that. I don't actually know if we've got a real pattern for this, but we're going to go through the grade ones. And that's the simple thing to do. Hopefully lots of different opinions, but essentially a lot of short price favourites. Remember though, 14 out of 28 odds on shots in the last 5 years, I should say, have won at the Cheltenham Festival. So mathematically, if you back odds on shots at the Cheltenham Festival over the last 5 years, you've done your conkers because they're odds on and only half of them have won. So that is worth remembering when we go through this. The other fact, quick stat, just Willie Mullins, 2-1 or less in grade 1 races is a license to print cash. What everyone tells you about Willie Mullins short prices, 2-1 or less in the grade 1s, you will become richer statistically. Which may be good news for you, Rich. Right, we will start with the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle, renamed after the sad loss of Michael the other day. Absolutely dreadful, but we remember him here with a round of applause. Michael O'Sullivan, who passed the other day and of course won the Supreme on Marine Nationale, and I'm hoping it will be the loudest roar Cheltenham has ever heard before the Supreme. Just finally, going report on the Unbridled podcast that Paddy and I recorded a little earlier on today. We did speak to the clerk of the course, John Pudden. From what he said there, it sounded like he's aiming for good to soft, soft in places on the first day. Paddy says it will be good to soft, and he was looking at the sky and saying it's sunny, weren't you, Pad, this morning? And you don't believe it's going to be good to soft, soft in places, do you?
I don't think it'll be too much soft in place. Good to soft, but not softer than that.
You sure?
Can't be.
He's already giving that look. He just gives that psycho look that only Paddy can give. Right, so Kopek de Board is a Willie Mullins odds-on shot in a grade 1. Romeo Coolio and Salvatore Mundi next best in the betting. Just to set us going, Templegate, can I start with you? Sorry, did I call you Templegate?
Reprobate, I think you call me.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've been called a lot worse. So, where will the Temple money be going in the opener?
Well, I'd like to see how the favourite gets down to the start, to be honest, because I believe he's a little bit buzzy, so I'm told, and you can groan. But at that price, obviously, I believe he was snuck around the parade ring at Leopardstown last time, and they took him out quickly. The first race at Cheltenham, the atmosphere will be electric, so I'm slightly worried about that. I mean, on form, he's obviously brilliant. But I'd like to see him at the start before my £2.50 win on him, to be quite honest.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's brilliant for a preview night a week before.
Well, give me a chance. I've picked a couple at fair prices. I think Work Ahead's got a decent chance in this. I think some decent form. I think Henry de Bromhead's really good at target training, and we'll have the horse ready for this at around the 10-1 mark. And I thought Tripoli Flyer clocked a really good time last time and can't be ruled out either each way.
Okay, we had Robert E. Power on the podcast this morning. He did pick out Work Ahead as a horse to very much keep on the right side of. Ben Pauling, you know a good horse when you see one. You train good horses. If you could train any of these and send them out for the Supreme, which one would you like to do?
You'd probably take the favourite, but I totally agree. He looks... I'm not in love with horses that take you on throughout the whole of the race, especially around Cheltenham. You've had some incredibly good horses which have been ridden from the front to win Supreme, to win 2.5 miles, whatever they're called. I never know the names because they change every year. But I just worry that the occasion might get to the favourite, and I do think it's a totally different test to that of the DRF. He was so impressive. He was almost free going, and it'll do well to get up the hill. So that would be my concern with him. I actually a big fan of Romeo Coolio. I think he looked very good. He looks a measured horse. He looks a horse that will take it on. And maybe if one goes off screaming off in front, then he's probably going to come up strong at the finish.
Yeah, I like Romeo Coolio as well. Part owned by a big Tottenham fan, which is good news for those of us who support. You know what I mean? You have to be careful saying that, or you get arrested these days. But then again, you've got to arrest about 60,000 people in a row with about 10 Man City fans. Meg, who do you fancy?
I think Competitive Boards wins. I would agree with Ben in the horses, over racing at Cheltenham or whatever. But for whatever reason, Willie's horses can literally run away with whoever's on board from start to literally the last and still pick up and still quicken up the hill. It's like ridiculous. If that was, I swear it just doesn't happen anywhere else. They're that way inclined. They do just sort of head down and just gallop. So I can't see him. I just can't see him.
Do you not think like a Faheen or someone like that was always a forward-going horse? Do you not think this lad's got the potential to be even more uncontrollable?
Well, they said that about Paddy Brennan last year, didn't they?
Yeah, true.
And he literally won by half the track.
Megan 1, Pauling 0.
I totally get it. And normally, it is concerning at Cheltenham if you're, totally running away. But I just think he's very talented. And I spoke to Ruby about it last night, and he said that although he's a buzzy horse, he doesn't think that he'll boil over. He's kind of that way inclined. At a bigger price of the Willie Mullins horses, Funicular, sounds like he is going to be going here as well. And 25-1 might be too big. I wouldn't be surprised to see him run better than those odds.
One thing you learn about working on ITV with Megan is that she is feisty. If you go at her, she's more scary than Paddy Brennan.
I have to put up with you, Matt.
You are,
Are you surprised?
Okay, no need to fight back already. We've only just started. Right, you have a drink or something. Paddy?
Yeah, Corbeck obviously is an obvious favourite. Look, does he want real decent ground if it dries up? Probably not. He's probably better on slightly slower ground, but you can overcome that. I do like Tripoli Flyer. If I was a guessing man, I'd say he won't run, but he would have an each-way chance of...
Not if he's not running, Pat.
No, not if he's not running, but if he did run,
okay.
He would be my pick at each-way price.
Okay, but let's let the audience in, because there's always a reason why people say things. You know the owner really well. You've ridden a listed winner for the owner. Probably takes you to dodgy nightclubs occasionally. I mean, you know the lad, don't you?
Yeah, know him well, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got lots of money, so I'm always trying to sell him horses, but we don't need to go into that.
Welcome to Meg's world. Rich, the vibe, did you ever get offered Kopek de Ball by any chance? Or?
I don't think I did, no. I usually get offered one of these things, which only about 1 out of 10 work out. But no, I was not. But when Willie talks about a horse, like he talked about that horse, you have to pay attention. And look, they're very confident around getting the festival off to a good start.
The one thing, just quickly, Paddy, is what he did at the DRF will be nothing like the pace they're going here into the first hurdle. It's a completely different test, isn't it?
Yeah, you say that, but it looks like it's going to cut up a bit. It's going to be a Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott's. There's going to be lots of Willie Mullins runners, but it's all about how he goes to start and all that beforehand. But as I said earlier on the show, when this tape goes down, no matter where you're standing, if you're standing out there in the street, scream, because we want the biggest cheer that's ever been at Chapman.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely thought. But Megan's right as well. When you think about what Willie does, is he'll know that it's a different pace at the Cheltenham Festival. He will train his horses to be sharper for the Cheltenham Festival than they would be for the DRF, whatever it is. Whether that be Lossy Mouth or wherever it might be. He will have them ready to run at Cheltenham the way they need to run. And that gallop at Willie's yard, it breaks a lot of horses. It does. They get hurt a lot, but it is so deep and they are so fit. It's incredible. And he trains them for Cheltenham. He's brilliant at making sure that he can win his races in Ireland, but when it comes time to run at Cheltenham or at Aintree, they're ready to run at those tracks.
And Rich, you've had a classic example of that in Vautour, who was always a good horse, but suddenly at Cheltenham he looked unbeatable. He just cruised round, and Ruby was still on the staff at the last.
That's a great example. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, even who was the one that had the low head carriage that won the Supreme and then won the Woody horse, not mine.
Paddy Brennan.
Yes, another horse that was sort of average and then came to Cheltenham, really was trained to run at the festival and do the right thing, and that's the sort of thing you get with Willie.
Does anyone like Salvatore Mundi at all, who wasn't very good in the Triumph last year?
I don't mind him. I don't. I think he's a fine horse. I think that the Donnellys have a great hand actually, and Joe's a good friend. But I think the way Woody talked about the other one is something special. Yeah.
Okay, well there's a little selection I think in there. Kopek de Boards, Romeo Coolio, Work Ahead a Second Look. They're all ones to put in your Placepot with the Tote, of course, or Paddy's non-runner, which means at least if you go on the favourite, you've probably got a good chance of winning. Right, next race is the Arkle Challenge Trophy, the My Pension Expert Arkle Challenge Trophy. Masborough is really short in this, I think. Loda Sud and Django Bay next in the market. Rich, can I come to you first just with Masborough, because if you look at his Triumph form, it's not great, really. I mean, he beat Carjesi. I mean, no one cares much about Carjesi. His win at the DRF was okay, but Willie's always seems to have had a twinkle in his eye for Masborough.
He does, and remember, it's unusual for Willie to take a 4-year-old chasing, and he did this year, didn't he? So had his Triumph go, and then he's taken him chasing. That's unusual for Willie. So he's obviously seen something in him about his chasing form. It's why he did that. Because normally Woody would definitely, having had all those hundreds of horses with him over the years, he would be, we'd buy an unplaced 4-year-old or a winning 3-year-old. 3-year-old would go Triumph route. Unplaced 4-year-old would go novice hurdling and then build chasing that way. To take a 4-year-old and then take them chasing the following year is unusual. So. And I think it's paid off. I think he's always seen that, wow, this fella could be a really good chaser, so here we go.
Meg?
Yeah, I actually am surprised physically looking at him in the paddock last year that he won the Triumph, because he's an absolute monster. He's huge. He wasn't your typical juvenile who's sort of smaller and nippier. So I think pure ability got him to win that. And yeah, okay, if you go through the form, you can pick holes in it, but he did what he had to do on the day. He's all about his chasing career now. I thought was slicker on his second start over fences. Drying ground doesn't concern me too much. He's got a good action on him. And yeah, I just think he's the classiest horse in the race. I mean, Dan Skelton's Lou Dessous beat won a dad's horse at Warwick last time in Rabode and made fairly hard work of it, I thought. So, yeah, I just think that Majborough's got a sort of classier way about him, and he's just a stronger horse.
Ben?
Well, I think that obviously, if Sir Gino was in this race, he would have blown everything out of the water. Okay, so have we got a very substandard field because Marchborough is now going to blow everything out of the water, or are we overstating Marchborough at the moment? My personal opinion, and I have to be very careful what I say because you have to remember that I've been trained 10 years and I'm shite compared to Willie Mullins. But I don't think, I'm not sold on his jumping. I think he jumps a fence. He's a big, scopy horse, but he jumps a fence a little bit like he jumps a hurdle. He's a little bit A to B. And to me, I'm going to chuck in my old boss's horse because he wouldn't be putting Django by. I know Sir Gino's out the door, so in comes Django by. Now, Django by got beaten by one of mine, actually, delighted, at Sandown. And it was a proper test, the Silly Isles this year. It was a proper ding-dong, and it was hard work. And Django By came to beat us, and we outstayed him probably. It's the truth of the matter. But I think Django By won a Grade 1 Form B novice hurdle at Aintree not that long ago. I think he's a brilliant jumper. And all I think is 2 mile novices have to be brilliant jumpers, because that is what wins and loses you. You make any sort of mistake at Cheltenham, doesn't matter how good you are, it knocks you back and the race doesn't wait for you. So I would be sticking with a bigger price and I'd be chucking in Django By.
Pat?
Yeah, I could completely agree with Ben about Majborough's jumping. He jumps okay, but there could be a mistake in there. I love Lou de Sud. I've always loved him all season. Obviously, when Sir Gino was in, any horse like that was in the race, it was very hard to say they're going to win when he was there because he'd been 1 to 4 on or whatever. But Lou de Sud is Cheltenham form. I understand what you're saying at Warwick, Maggie. He looked workmanlike, but I go into Dan's every week and I feel like they've just left him to get him as spot on as they can for this meeting, and I think he'll love it.
Yeah, I've got a feature with Bridget Andrews in The Sun at the weekend. Hopefully some of you will read it. It's really nice, actually. She, as you probably know, is Harry Skelton's wife, and she's a 2-time Cheltenham Festival winning jockey, but she gave up being a rider to be a mum. And she really wanted to be a mum, and she was happy to give up the writing to a degree, it turns out, when you read what she's got to say. But she rides Lou de Sud in his work every morning. And she is absolutely convinced that we haven't seen the best of this horse on the track. And she talks about the fact they were actually quite disappointed as a hurdler, even though he finished second at the Cheltenham Festival in a handicap. She thinks we haven't seen the best of him. We'll come back to that in a minute, but we'll just go to Templegate.
Yeah, I think Majboroughh might be the most vulnerable of the show prices on the first day. I agree about Lou de Sud. He's got a lot of talent, and I hope Gavin Cromwell runs only by a night in this over the mare's chase, because the £7 allowance would make a difference. Around a 12 to 1 shot now, and ran well at Cork and Exeter, and I think would have an each way chance, and type of horse you might want to put in your place spots and hope the favourite gets turned over.
Only in Nicholls could talk about this race without going into depth about Khalif de Burley. I mean, is he going to run? Is he going to run?
Not definitely to go to Cheltenham. I think if he does, it will be a handicap.
Right.
But it could well be Aintree instead. But he's been left in there to look if connections want to be the same owners have Lou de Sud, so it's unlikely. Just really quickly, so I'm a Sir Gino fan all over. If he was in here, that's who I'd be going for. But last night I was with, Ruby, AP, Charlie Swan, and they all said, had Sir Gino been in, they'd have been delighted because they'd have lumped on Marchborough. They rate him so highly and think that any doubts, people are just overlooking him. Like, they genuinely thought he would have beat Sir Gino. Like, that's how good they think this horse is. And like, they weren't saying this, taking him, they were gutted that he's out because they were like, we thought he'd beat Sir Gino. Now, I don't, but that's how highly they rate him.
Okay.
He wouldn't blow smoke up Sergino's hole.
No, he wouldn't.
I agree. I totally agree. But that is what that's how
They
talk
are
about
absolutely talking their own book, and I know all three of them very well.
it. Promise you.
They're sucking up to the boss, I reckon.
It's good to know they're punters, though, isn't it? Just with the benefit of hindsight, when you look back at some
Officially.
of those rides.
These days.
These days, yes.
These days.
It's a tricky one because if there are only 9 in the Arkle at this minute. If Canif de Burley comes out, it's 8. There are people talking about Firefox going into handicaps. That would bring it down, of course, to 7. Ballyburn is one of them. Well, we know he's not running, so that's 6.
So getting rid of the 2.5 has worked then, is it?
Well, yeah, don't get started that now. We'll have to get onto the mares straight away. But the problem is with Django Bay, I absolutely think this horse, and I've said it for weeks now, is a knocking each way bet. But you're not going to, you can't find a bookmaker anymore to give you 3 places, unfortunately, even though there are 9 in there. They're all going 2. He's already rated £1 higher than Lo de Sud, and he's double the odds. And I've spoken to Nico again. I've got a feature with him on Tuesday next week. He just says, actually, between the second last and the last at Sandown, when he was going better than handstands, he said he just got stuck in the mud. He just didn't like the heavy ground, which wouldn't be particularly surprising for a Henderson horse. And you know he stays. He was impressive. I know Caldwell Potter might not be the machine that we all wanted him to be, but he destroyed Caldwell Potter and Springwell Bay, and they're both pretty good horses. He was such a good each-way bet. But, of course, if you're going to end up with probably 5 or 6 runners, for you lot, I'm afraid today, it's a bit like Paddy talking about horses that aren't turning up. It's kind of pointless, but you can, I do think Madgeborough could come down. I do think his jumping is a bit iffy. Right, Rich hasn't really drunk as much wine as I wanted before we got to the Champion Hurdle. I just needed him to, although you've said smoke up an arsehole, you're getting there.
I didn't say asshole, I said smoke up a hole.
You meant that, though.
No, I didn't say that. If
Okay.
we're going to talk about assholes, we'll talk about you, but I didn't mention that.
He never talks like that to Nick
Just
Clark on the
joking.
podcast, does he?
Just joking.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Let's get down to the nuts and bolts then, Rich. Where do we start? So, you say that Willie Mullins decides where Lossy Mouth runs. Willie Mullins has said that he has prepared her for 2 years to run in the Champion Hurdle. Therefore, if we just take logic to a reasonable next step, Lossy Mouth is running in the Champion Hurdle. Is that fair?
No. So what I said last year at this conference, or whatever you want to call it, was I could get it where we're leaning towards
Fun night out?
in the Arkle, which we did. I think with Lossy Mouth, what I know that's what Willie has said is we've campaigned her for the last couple of years as a Champion Hurdle horse, and we have. We ran her against Teahupoo, and she won. We ran at Cheltenham at Kempton at Christmas, and we disappointed both in our form, but we also know that it was the first time after a long layoff for Constitution Hill. He'll improve from that. We didn't learn anything from Christmas, but we thought we had some excuses at Christmas. We then ran against Stateman at the DRF, and Paul chose to ride Stateman, which I always thought he might, but I thought we'd learn something from that race. She had a horrible fall. I don't normally watch the races, and I didn't see the fall, but I watched it back, and we're very lucky to have her, I think. We had a chat with Willie last night, and I think while we've campaigned her as such, I think we'll wait till the weekend. We need to see how she is. I'd like to know who Paul's going to ride, and I'd like to see how we take it from there. But I'm not embarrassed to say that we campaigned her as a Champion Hurdle horse. It hasn't worked out. Where she runs the end of the day will be Willie's decision, but we'll have some input in terms of how she is, what he thinks, who Paul may ride, and take it from there. So there will be a decision late at the weekend, I'm afraid.
Rich, I know you're always going to be a bit cagey these days because you've had to make these decisions before and you've kind of made them and then things have changed. And
yes,
the people, which includes everyone in this room probably, have given you absolute pelters. So in some ways I understand you not sticking the neck out. Can I just give you a different scenario though? You track the entries on Sunday morning. Paul Townend is on Stateman, which I think most people believe he will be. He'll be on the defending champion, particularly on the back of that fall. It seems odd. The only reason you could think he wouldn't be is that you could argue Lossy Mouth shows her best form at Cheltenham, whereas State Man shows his worst form at Cheltenham, even though he's a champion hurdler. You could argue that. But as the owner, you see the stable riders ditched you. You're a 9-2 shot, or you can be about 4-6, 4-7 in the mare's hurdle with the stable jockey on. Does it become very hard then not to run in the mares?
No, I think the mare's hurdle race is a good race, by the way, this year. It's very competitive. No, she might not win that, by the way, depending how she comes back from that fall. I just think we have to take it all in the round and say, she's only 6, remember. She's only 6. We campaigned her as a champion hurdle horse. It hasn't worked out as we would have hoped it would have worked out. Let's see how she works the rest of the week and take it from there. It'll be a weekend decision, I assure you.
If Paul Townend says, I want to ride Lossy Mouth in the champion hurdle, would that give you the confidence to run her?
That would be a factor, of course, but there's other factors as well. But, I'm with Matt. I think that just, how do you get off the defending champion of the champion hurdle? But we'll see what happens. It will be a weekend decision, I assure you. And I think what Willie's saying is this has been our plan all year, and we'll take it from there. And I know that's not what punters want to hear, but look, it's a complicated game, and we want to make sure we're protecting the horse and also running her where she has her best chance. That being said, I wouldn't shy away from the champion hurdle if she's rocking and rolling in the right form. So we'll have to see.
It's great for a start that Rich talks out, because he doesn't really have to say anything about this, to be quite frank. So thank you. But I want to just I'm interested to see what the people have interpreted what you have said as. So if you now think Lossy Mouth is going to run in the mare's hurdle, stick your hand up.
I kind of think so.
If you think she'll run in the champion hurdle on the back of what Rich has said, put your hand up.
I'm on my own.
And if you're as clueless as you were 10 minutes ago, put your hand up.
Maybe
Okay.
do it twice.
Look, if the horse is working the house down and given her form at Cheltenham, and she'll have one more piece of work to do, we'll make a call.
Will Paul ride her in the piece of work, or will Danny ride her in her piece of work?
Paul rides her work. They
Okay.
don't ride against each other.
So
Paul rides her work. So it'll be up to Paul to say, is there anything she's shown me to get off State Man? That would be going through his mind.
Okay, we've got...
And I've been as honest as I can be. You might not like it, but that's where we are.
No, look, it is what the situation is. You can only say it as it is. We've got to talk about the mare's hurdle. I'm going to be quick. I think Lossy Mouth will win it. Templegate?
Well, if she runs, yeah, I think Lossy Mouth will win it. If not, something like Carla Conti at a fair price, I think would go well. Went a bit too fast last time, but kept going, and I think Cheltenham will suit Carla Conti.
Rich, can I just ask you one more question, and it's not going to wind you up in any way whatsoever. Just as Ricci, is it more important to you as a fella that Ricci has a winner at Cheltenham, or a possible winner, I know you're going to say, or you just go for the biggest race of them all? What's it for you? If to come out of Cheltenham with nothing, does that feel worse than foregoing a champion hurdle chance?
Look, I feel a bit of a fraud on this platform tonight because this is our worst year ever. Now, we've had some great years, I'm not complaining, but we've had 5 winners in Ireland from almost 60 runners. I mean, it's just not great. Now, we've had 2 great ones, one in England and one in Ireland. But, we want, of course we want winners, but we also want to be competitive. And as I said earlier, it's a long-winded answer to your question. I wouldn't just, put her there just because we have a winner. If she has a legitimate chance that we think she could win the champion hurdle, we'll run the champion hurdle. But if we don't, then I think we have to think about what's in the best interest of the horse and her long-term future. She's only 6. She'll come back and run next year. But that being said, we'll have to just see how she's going and what we're going to do. But look, I've been very fortunate, and I'm very grateful and thankful. We've had 22 Cheltenham Festival winners. Cheltenham's important to me, but the well-being of the horse and the right thing for the horse is more important.
And finally, can I just say that, some people come on these kind of panels, particularly the big owners, if they are on a panel when they're going well. Not everyone would bother coming on if they think they're not going well, which Rich obviously thinks this season's been tough. So the one thing I think we can all put our hands together and say, Rich, that you are no fraud, man.
Well, it's very kind of you. Now, I also want to say, though, I'm not moaning. I am absolutely not moaning. We've had an unbelievable 20-year run, and these things happen. It's just part of racing. And by the way, we're restocking, so we'll come back with a lot more for this panel next year. Absolutely. That being said, it's, you know, I also feel for the punters, because it's so hard and there's so much pressure from such an early part about where you're going to run at Cheltenham. And we came out last year and said we're going to go for the champion hurdle, and we've made a legitimate effort to. It's just, maybe she's just a very good mare. Maybe she's not a champion hurdle horse. I don't know. But we'll make a decision at the weekend, and please be patient with us. But thank you for your support. And if you want to call me switchy, whatever it is, that's okay too. But thank you. That's a very meager round of applause, by the way.
Templegate, we need 2 selections from everyone on the mares quickly, because we're running very strong at the moment. Lossy Mouth in and Lossy Mouth out, please.
Well,
as in, you need 2 for the mares.
Lossy Mouth will win if she runs.
If she wins, she runs.
And
yeah.
I feel like Cala Conte at a price if she doesn't, or even if she does.
Okay, Ben?
I'll go Lossy Mouth in, and I'll chuck July Flower at you out.
Yeah, it's worth remembering Joya's supplemented for this race now. Meg?
Well,
Yeah, Lossy Mouth wins if she runs. Joyous is the next best, and at 5-1, regardless of Lossy Mouth's route, I think that she's a sensible price, Joyous.
Patrick?
Yeah, Lossy Mouth wins and Dice Artinos each way.
Yeah, which will come as a shock to you, because you've been telling me for the last 3 months that Lossy Mouth is a certainty in the champion hurdle.
Well, hold on a minute. She had a bad fall in Leopardstown because of the seagulls. If you weren't watching.
What fucking difference does that make? It's, she's not there.
It's not the ideal preparation going into a champion hurdle on the back
You
of that
said
fall.
she'd win.
Yeah.
You were wrong.
Well, I'm not wrong.
Well, she's not there.
How
She
can I
hasn't
be
won, has
fucking
she?
wrong if she doesn't run in it?
Jesus. You try sitting next to this bloke doing a podcast, honestly. It's like talking to Donald Duck. Right. Right. Now we get to the champion hurdle. We're going to have, if Lossy Mouth is in, do you think she's going to win or not? I mean, we all know Constitution Hill is an absolute certainty. Templegate?
Yeah, Constitution Hill's a
We're not going to
certainty.
spend hours on races that we don't need to.
Connell wins, yeah.
Ben, we know who you're going to tip.
well, I'd love to see Lossy Mouth in the champion hurdle, because I was the only one that voted for it. But I think she's got an uphill task against Constitution. I think he looks as good as he has. I think his return was brilliant. I love the fact that basically Nicky told everyone after the Christmas hurdle that you wouldn't see him again since Cheltenham. And he's been enjoying watching him so much at home that he ran him at Cheltenham, and he's given them a public gallop and everything else. He's obviously flying, isn't he? Did you see him school this morning? Did you see the video?
I was there, yeah.
Did you see the video?
I did see the video, yeah.
I mean,
He's a machine.
it was just ridiculous. You can't. Horses don't do that on a race course, let alone when you're hacking at home up a schooling lane. I just think he must be in serious form. So he's the obvious choice for me, and I think brighter days ahead. They've obviously not confirmed for the mares, have they?
No.
So at least we've got a stonking race on our hands.
You have to remember with Constitution Hill, this is a horse who beat John Bon, a 17-time winner, hundreds of grade ones, only been beaten 3 times in her life. He beat him at distance. He's beaten State Man at distance. You know, you are talking with the Frankel of hurdling.
He only beat Lossy Mouth by 2 1/4 lengths to Ben's point.
Here we go. This is what I think gives you. This is why I think she should go to the champion hurdle, because she's the closest to him, and they both improve.
Patrick, you don't think Constitution Hill can win a champion hurdle. You said Lossy Mouth would. She's running in the mares.
I didn't say that.
Paddy.
Who wins the
No, he
champion
said
hurdle?
she's running in the mares. Yeah.
Look, I didn't see that Constitution Hill schooling today. He did look good, to be fair, but what he's got in his favour next week is the ground. Massively in his favour.
So you're now tipping him.
No, I'm not.
Well, this is the moment to tip.
If Lossy Mouth runs, she's got a chance. Let me tell you why. Because they are going to go strong in this race. They got a pacemaker. Brighter days ahead will take it up from there. Constitution Hill and Nico de Chastal will come shortly after. And Lossy Mouth could just stay out of all that and pick them all up at the end. but she's not running.
That is a theory of the case. And that's an argument being put forward. Yes, agreed.
So I did speak to Nico again in that feature for next week. These are the words of Nikolai Chastel de Boinville, as he's actually known. It doesn't matter what happens in the race. He's so straightforward. I imagine there is going to be a really strong pace in there. But as I have said, it doesn't matter. They can go slow or they can go quick. He's able to travel at whatever gallop. You know better than Nikolai.
No, I don't. Tell him I was asking for him.
What?
Did you tell him I said hello?
He said, well, I did ask him once. He said he'd never heard of you. So you think Bright as Ahead, though, could... We should just remember the mares do get £7, so they don't have to be technically as good as Constitution Hill. They have to be within £7 of Constitution Hill.
Look, it's going to be a hell of a race. And I'm delighted Brighter Days Ahead's running. It'd be even better if Lossy Mouth's running. But obviously you'll keep blowing smoke up Henderson's backside, so we're going to take you on. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Just because this is becoming a theme, I'd just like to make it clear that I do not blow smoke up any backsides. Certainly not those two blokes, anyway. Right, Meg.
Constitution Hill.
Yeah.
When he beat Lossy Mouth at Kempton, genuinely, he looked like he was in full. He was pretty round, and it was obviously great to see him back on the track, but you can't judge him on that performance. He'll be so much fitter, healthier, straighter, and I think we'll see a £15 better horse than we did that day. So
Lossy Mouth was beat after one hurdle.
yeah,
At Kempton. She was
Yes.
beat after one hurdle.
irrelevant of
Yeah,
how...
great. Yeah.
This is not disrespecting her performance, because
No, I just
obviously
think
she
they
wasn't
both-
right.
I
But
think they'll
in
both
terms of
improve.
himself, he was not 100% that
Correct.
day, and it was very much a stepping stone to getting him back for this year's champion hurdle, and he will be at his peak. And when he's in that form, I think he is literally unbeatable.
Yeah, I agree with May. I think what was interesting about Kempton was that up to the last hurdle, he was like a 20s on shot. Like he just cruised. And I just think that was just lack of match. You have to imagine all the operations he's had, the things he's gone through. I know they say he's had no physical leg issue, whatever, but he's been through quite a lot over the last year. And he still came back and travelled like the king for most of the race. Yes, the final furlong wasn't the best furlong of his career, but I think for any horse who's been through what he's clearly been through, you just the fact a lot of people thought he could have been pulled up in that race, Constitution Hill. Just the fact he came back and won was all you needed.
Yeah, and I also think, a horse like him, he's sort of small and compact. And when they've got that much ability, everything at home they find pretty easy. So it can actually be hard to get them really fit until they're actually on the track. It takes them, those horses with such a high level of ability, it can take them longer because you never get them into that next sort of pressure point. So I think he'll have improved so much. It's great that he's had a run again. And I think that we'll see a seriously explosive performance.
Yeah, and we all really want that, don't we? Because this sport is about finding greatness. Rich has had great horses. Those are the ones that will always be in his brain, apart from possibly the one in Japan who won more money than probably all of the rest put together. But other than that, it's about greatness. And Constitution Hill is unbeaten at the moment. He's unbeaten. He is a great horse in my opinion. He's the best hurdler I've ever seen. Right, we're going to go on to day number 2 quickly, where we start with the Turners Novices Hurdle. And the New Lion in some places is favourite now over Final Diamond. Brian Drew, yesterday, the owner of Final Diamond, saying he could go up to 3 miles. All depends on the ground. But the betting is beginning to switch a little bit at the top here. The yellow clays in their 6 mile bridge for Fergal. Potter's Charms in here as well. Let's start with you, Patrick, because you know a lot of these people, you mix with them.
Yeah, and the New Lion is a horse I absolutely love. He's, for me, my nap of the whole meeting. And you see he's gone into favour. He'll probably go shorter than that. The drying ground will help him. The questions I've asked when I've been in Skeletons is, one, how did he get the name? Because I'm a strong believer every good horse has a good name. And I think he's got an amazing name. But I think after that race on Wednesday, he could be favoured for the following year's champion hurdle. That's how good I think he could be.
Okay, Paddy, strong on the New Lion. Templegate?
Yep, he's quite
Who
right.
went you up there?
Yeah, I was just having a little doze, sorry. I'm full agreement on the new line, and looking for one at a price. I thought Celt Histoire of Willie Mullins around 20 to 1. Bit unlucky in the Moscow Flyer, and a bit of fair chance of making the frame at a decent price, but the new line is the one I'll be tipping.
Benjamin?
So does Final Demand,
Well-
is it the chat about him going 3 miles now,
The
isn't it?
theory is, unless some rain comes, that the faster the ground gets, the more likely he's to go up in trip. But then you could have the situation that Kopek, the ball goes into the turners, and Salvatore Mundi becomes the supreme horse. But it's all speculation and politics.
Well, looking at the field as it is now, Final Demand looked a lovely horse in the DRF. He did it very nicely, he did it properly. The new line's definitely the most exciting novice hurdler we've got this side of the RSC, I believe. But we've not got a bad hand in Potter's Charm. Now, Potter's Charm, I think if you could rewind 6 weeks and give Nigel and Willie the option of running or not optioning in Trials Day, they probably retract and have not run, because I think he looked a tired horse that day. They probably have had enough time to get him back fresh and well. Had he not run on Trials Day, I'd have said he'd have been bang there. So if you can recapture the form of the early season, but he has now had 5 or 6 runs, it's quite a lot as a novice. But if he can come back, he'll be good. 6 Mile Bridge I used to train, and I thought he was an incredibly talented horse. He went to the festival last year, and I learned a very valuable lesson that day, and that is the second you see a horse boiling over in the paddock like he was, you just pull the bloody thing out, because he got, it was a write-off. He was beaten before he even got to the start. He was a lather in sweat and all the rest of it. I think Fergal's done a nice job with him this year, but I always knew he had the ability, but I don't think he's that good.
Would you have done better with him?
Of course.
And as well,
You've got to like golf, I guess.
he's another one that would have preferred softer ground.
He prefers softer ground, and he's just not quite that good. He's a bloody nice horse, and he'll probably win a Grade 1 novice chase, but he won't win a Grade 1 novice hurdle.
For those of you clued up on the news, a reminder, 6 Mile Bridge, he's going to be disqualified from his last win for a drugs problem. Not go faster juice as far as we're aware. This seems to be just a sort of a joint thing or an injection thing, but not a go faster juice thing. And he is still allowed to run at the Cheltenham Festival, but he is going to lose a win. Meg.
Yeah, the new lion. Even if Final Demand runs here, I just think he's 17 hands, wants slow ground, and with the conditions we've got next week, the new lion's the one they've all got to beat. The shallow hurdle isn't sort of traditionally a great stepping stone.
No, as Dad knows.
As Dad knows.
Jesus.
He had a racecourse gallop that day. He didn't have to try.
Literally, and also the Challow's normally such a slog, and this year it wasn't. It was
just
slightly better ground than usual. But either way, this horse is he's got so many gears, and Harry Skelton literally did not even ask him to extend. It was just a case of when he wants to go a little bit quicker just to make sure he's over the line in front. And his training, the reports have been very good since. JP McManus obviously now is in ownership. And I just think he's got that tactical speed that they're going to need to have on the ground that's going to be drying out. So he's the one for me.
Rich, Final Demand shows us the precariousness, if that is a word, of getting horses from point to points, because he won a point to point by 6 lengths. The second horse is rated in the 80s, and the third horse is absolutely useless and can't win anything. And yet, Final Demand, here he is in the Turners, having just won that race by 6 lengths, as looking one of the most exciting horses around. You never quite know what you're going to get.
It's a really interesting point. I was talking to a couple of Irish owners last night who travel quite a bit and were in England for dinner and things, and we were lamenting the novice crop that we all bought over the last couple of years in Ireland from the point-to-point field. And you're bang on. It's really hard to know what you're getting, and what you're seeing is, interestingly, you're seeing a lot of Irish owners now buying English point-to-point horses because they like the page or whatever it is, not just relying on, you know, the winning distance, whatever it is in Irish point-to-points. It's really interesting. And look, we've had some success doing it. I've bought some dogs. You know, we tend to buy in France these days, but it's a crapshoot, and you never know how, you know, they're drilled to the inch of their life, some of these, to win these point-to-points, and the form doesn't work out. So you're right, it is a slippery slope, it can be.
It's nice to know there is some success stories through that division.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm sure if you've got a good one, Meg, you'll be on to Rich straight away. He's got 500 grand.
We've struggled to find many good ones from that sphere.
I was underbidder for a horse that I bid 500,000 euros for. I was underbidder to somebody else who paid 550,000 for it, and got absolutely stuffed in a bumper. I mean,
I know,
stuffed.
it was this season.
Yeah, stuffed.
Johnny DeLay?
Nope.
No.
Thankfully not.
No.
It's got to be one of Tom Malone's.
It was Irish and absolutely stuffed in a bumper. And I saw the fellow who bought it and said, "What'd you think?" He said, "Absolute shocker," because not only was he stuffed, the first six in sort of an ordinary bumper all finished together. And you're sitting there looking at your shoes saying, "Crikey." Yeah, so it is becoming a very high stakes game.
And Rich, I know there are some questions that you will always get asked, and you'll have answered them before, and I've had it, but obviously it's a different audience.
Well, I've absolutely moved the markets on Twitter tonight, and I didn't mean to, so your questions must be bang on.
But just with being offered horses, you know, you go to the trainer who has all the top owners in there. He has a whole list of people who can pretty much write blank checks if they want to. When you see one doing well and you haven't been offered it, or vice versa, how frustrating is it?
Do you remember?
Well, it's a really interesting question. So I became friends with Willie Mullins before I became his client. And over the years, I've probably become, and he would admit this as well, because look, when I met Willie Mullins, I've said this publicly before, you know, he'd finished second in the Trainers' Championship 7 years in a row. And I said to him, because a friend of mine who had horses with his father introduced me to him and I said to him, you know, you're supposed to be this great trainer, why aren't you winning more? Very American thing to say. And he said, I just don't have the ammunition. And I said, is that right? And I went to his yard, and they were jumping around like sticks in a circle and things, had no hurdles, no gallops or anything. And I said, well, I'll buy this horse, and if we have some success, I'll buy more. And I did. And, you know, over time, as we had success, and we had a phenomenal run, and we still do have a phenomenal run, it attracted more owners to the yard. But I certainly can't begrudge Willie Mullins building a business on the back of my investment. He's done brilliantly, and I've benefited from it as well. It's been great for me. What a hell of a ride. And over time, originally I saw everything, but as it became 300 horses in the yard, I can't buy everything. And so, fair play to him. He's built a great business. So I don't begrudge him his success. I still see a lot of horses I turned down. I saw one the other day that I turned down for 300,000 euro, and it's finished 6th, 7th, 9th, 8th, and 3rd. And it was bought by somebody else, and that makes me happy. Right? Whereas opposed to, if I see someone I turn down that wins, fair play to the owners. And look, I know how hard it is to own a horse in this game, how expensive it is, how much passion goes into it, and I love it when they win. I honestly do that. I want Willie to be successful, everybody to be successful. John Hales, I love John Hales. Great chats with John Hales. It's good stuff. That's what the game's supposed to be about. Fun and excitement and good sportsmanship.
Because you were never offered Maureen, were you?
What's
Maureen. Fahim's relation. You were never offered Maureen, were you?
No.
No.
I'm probably not
Did you
sure
think
why.
you'd be on right at the top of the list? It's Fahim's offspring.
Well, but it all depends, you know. Look, if
You know what I mean.
If I had a pound for every offspring I said was going to be the next, whoever their brother was, you know, that'd be fantastic. But the issue is I remember Ruby Walsh told me once. I'd say, well, I remember we had a horse called, I forget what it was called, it was a filly. Anyway, she was Pontipi. And I bought her sister, her other sister, her half-sister, the other sister. And Ruby said to me, what are you doing? I said, well, Woody says we should buy these things because of the relationship, et cetera. He says, you've got the winner. He said, these could all be no good. You don't know that. Wait till they do something. And I think that's kind of my approach. So, but you can't begrudge people that win. Crikey, what an investment. How exciting is it? It makes our game when you have people at Cheltenham or at Aintree or at Lingfield or wherever it is, and they have a winner and they're so excited. That's what makes it special, and that's why I'm in the game, and that's why you can't begrudge people. And if I miss one, great. If somebody else is lucky to buy it, fantastic.
Ricci, ladies and gents. He's warming up. We're getting there. Right. Let's go to the Brown Advisory Novices Chase. This time last year, there wasn't a person you could find who didn't just think Ballyburn was going to win forever and ever. He did get beaten by Sergino, but if you just go on the basis he's not a 2-miler, that was probably still quite a good run. I just want to go down, I'm going to go to the panel in general here. Does anyone not think Ballyburn will win this race? Not. Templegate.
Well, I quite fancy Croke Park in this.
I don't think he'll run, but yeah.
Will he not run? No, I don't know. He's not running.
Well, he's in it still at the moment.
So. Oh, gorgeous Tomlin, that was just behind him a couple of runs ago. But if he does run, I think he's really tough, and Cheltenham will suit him, and he's a Grade 1 horse, and he's a good price. And Ballyburn still has to prove that he'll get up the hill. I'm sure he will, but he's still got to do it, hasn't he?
Well, he's done it before.
But,
Meg, you look as though you're itching to say something.
No, I just think Ballyburn's nap of the week. I just 13 to 8, up in trip. He's I think he's a fairly sensible price for the favourites. I can't see that he's the one that could bomb out. We always get a favourite that ends up disappointing. I don't think it'll be him. Any ground's fine. Extra distance will only help him. And yeah, I just can't see him getting beat.
You've got a reaction from the crowd there, but Patrick, you are in the Nicholls camp, aren't you, Ballyburn? You don't like him at all. He's your lay of the week.
Yeah, not quite my lay of the week, but I don't fancy him.
We did a fucking article earlier, and you said to me at the end, Ballyburn is my lay of the week.
But what
Did I?
can be
Yes.
there? What is there that can? I just can't see. I just struggle to make a case strong enough for.
Well, Dancing City's a pretty good
I was
horse.
going to say, I'll take over.
He's beaten him in
Thank
the
you.
bumper
Let
already.
Ben take over.
I'll
mate.
take over because, let's be honest, what's Dancing City's forte? Dancing City is a thorough stayer.
Jumps and gallops and
Okay,
stays,
jumps
100%.
and gallops.
Bottomless
What's
ground.
Ballyburn going to do?
Bottomless ground.
Ballyburn's going to go $1 million. Might be bottomless ground. It wasn't bottomless ground at Aintree. Was it last year? Was it? I'm not sure.
It was.
I was
wasn't.
the idiot that gave Dancing City a lead at Aintree last year.
Soft.
Keelan Woods and Charlie Deutsch decided they were going to have a piece of work for the whole race. They took each other on and softened each other up. Kintara fell 2 out and nearly died because he was exhausted. And Dancing City came and picked us up and gave us a beating. Now, I just think he's the dark horse that you could find him coming late on. Ballyburn is very good. But I'm going to go back to my boring chat, which is I think he jumps a hurdle better than he jumps a fence. Yeah. So I think once again we've got the only possibility of Ballyburn probably being beaten is a mistake or two. And I'm not saying he's going to, because he hasn't really made a mistake. He just hasn't looked electric over a fence like some of these orgasmic chasers can.
Well, I hope they win, because I'll tell you what, you'll find no more fun winners than Ronnie Barton.
Yeah, brilliant.
And Dave Massa, the jockey's agent. They are a great crack. That'd be wonderful if they won.
Yeah.
They really are. Right, we're going to go on to the big Grade 1 on day 2, which is the Queen Mother Champion Chase. John Bomb, probably a little bit of odds on at the moment ahead of Marine Nationale, the old boy and Ergamine, front runner Pacemaker in their soulness, and Gaelic Warrior. Rich, you can't tell us where Lossy Mouth is running, but you can tell us where Gaelic Warrior is running. Is he going Ryanair or Queen Mother Champion Chase or nowhere?
Well, first of all, I find it very interesting you're losing the crowd now, so
Which is why I brought you back
for a
in.
break. Oh, sorry, I'm back now. Look, Gaelic Warrior has had a troubled season. We've not had a clear run with him all year. He's had lots of niggles. We couldn't run him in the John Durkin. We had to wait until Christmas. There he was okay. At the DRF, we also had some niggles. He was okay. We are happy with him. That being said, he's got to get there. And we've got to make sure that he's A1, A super duper to be able to run in either race. And we've got it's going to be the next 2 or 3 days if we can see how he's working, where he's going. We've had a troubled season with him. He's fine, but it's just, will he get there? So I can't tell you where he'll run because I'm not sure he'll get there. But we're hopeful. But the next 72 hours will tell you what's going to happen.
After he ran last time, it drove me mad that a lot of people were slating Paul Townend for the ride because he never put him in the race. He clearly wasn't able to put him in the race. He just, to me, looked an unhappy horse. He wasn't comfortable. He's never really going with the same zest. So you're saying nothing really came back from that, which must make Willie's job harder to work out when he's back at his very best, because he was obviously not showing the same at home as what he has on the track.
You're bang on. I thought he was going to be pulled up in that race, the DRF. And he came back on the bridle and finished a decent third. But look, it's been a troubled season for the poor lamb. Let's hope he makes it. He's fine in and of himself. It's just, can we get there and be fit and able to run? And that will not be another weekend decision. But, you know, look, he's a fine horse. We're very confident about his future. We've just had a very challenging season.
He did have a small cut in that race. Was that anything much?
No, nothing to do with that. No, he's fine with that. That's a good point, Matt, though, but nothing to do with that. He's had just niggles here and there. We just haven't had a straight run.
He did finish third in the end. And in some ways...
Got to be pulled up and stayed on.
Yeah, it's like, we kind of talk about it as if he was last or something. He did finish third in the end. It wasn't...
But it wasn't his running, was it?
No.
Yeah, so let's see if he gets there. And, you know, he'd also need soft ground to run in the champion, pardon me, in the champion chase. He would need soft ground. I think
So
that's his best
Ryanair
ground.
on that basis is much
But he's got to get there, and I think we'll just see it as the weekend plays out how we go.
Do you have a gut feeling, Richie?
No, he'll be declared for both races. I'm sure he'll be declared.
Confirmed.
He'll be yet to declared. It'll be a last-minute decision. We're hoping to get him there, but look, it's going to be. He's had a troubled season, but you know we've got Cheltenham, we've got Aintree, we've got Punchestown. Let's hope he can salvage something.
Okay, just rein it back in, ladies and gents. Paddy, who wins the Queen Mother Champion Chase?
Yeah, look, John Bond looks like he's going to be very hard to beat. The drying ground will suit him, but if there was one result we'd love would be Marine National. At a big price, he could go very, very well, and hopefully they'll pop him out the gate. You try and make it as tough as you can for John Bond and try and force him into a mistake. That's what you got to do as a jockey. Solness is in there as well to put pressure on the race, but it looks probably John Bond's race to lose.
You agree with that, Meg?
Yeah, I've always gone against him, and I just can't find a
17
reason.
times he's proved you wrong. Out of 20.
I tell you, he was on my side when El Fabiolo and
well done.
John Bond that
You got
year,
one
remember?
right.
That was, and actually he hasn't won at a festival yet, has he, Matt?
No, but he's finished
Right.
second to
So-
the best horse on the
okay,
planet.
fine.
And
So-
he's finished second to a horse at the time who was considered one of the best horses on the
But
planet.
well said, Meg, he hasn't won at the festival
No.
yet, no.
And so you haven't always been right. But anyway, no, this time around, I'm going to be in the John Bond camp for the first time because he's had a better preparation than anyone else, really.
Yeah. Ben, you'd be a John Bond man, wouldn't you?
Of course, I'm a John Bond man. There's a key trend that we're all missing out on here. Nicky Henderson trains fast horses.
Yeah.
Very, very well. So all these horses like Constitution Hill and John Bond and the Lumber and there's Sagino, the faster you go, the better it suits them.
Okay.
And the ground as well.
And the ground is, Nicky loves good ground, he always does, even his horses like it. So, you know, it's for me, everyone else is trying to get John Bond to beat John Bond, and then they end up setting up for him.
Yeah. And Templegate, John Bond on form.
Well, other than the fact that 9 of the past 12 odds-on favourites have been beat, which is a bit of a worry, and it's been a bit of a bad race for shorties, but yeah, I mean, he should win, and and I just wonder about Solness. Might have been overlooked a bit because that was an incredible run last time. I mean,
he could be the
speed figure-
forecast.
Quick round. Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe that might
Put
have
him in
been
as an
the cup
exactor
final.
maybe with the toes.
Well, and the Placepot. Put it in your Placepot.
Yeah. Nice exactor.
Yeah.
Say the word, please.
A
Exactor.
nice exactor or a swinger.
Yeah, well done. Okay, John Bond. What I love about him is in his last 8 starts, he's been rated 170. Like, the consistency is so rare. You didn't have that consistency in Sprinter Sacre. You didn't have it in Moscow Flyer. To have 8 starts at that rating is just extraordinary, I think. And that's what he brings to the table. Like Gaelic, we know he's got so much talent. he doesn't bring it every time. This horse just brings it.
100%. That's right. The consistency is extraordinary.
Right, we're going to be quick on the bumper and then have a break. I always think the bumper is an absolute lottery. We know that because Patrick Mullins doesn't always ride the winner. And therefore, we know that Willie Mullins doesn't actually know which one of them is going to win. Having said that, most of us pick them. I'm going to start with Ben Pauling in the bumper.
And I'm going to hand over to Ricci. Because I just haven't got a clue. They're all good at the moment. And they'll all, 80% of these horses will turn out shite.
Yes, 100%.
Because this, in my personal opinion, and people will tell me I'm wrong, I think it can break a horse as quick as it can make a horse. So even if I had a world beater, I haven't the strength and depth in this stage of my career to risk it going tits up at this stage in its career. So I'm going to say your dad's horse. No drama at this end.
No drama this end.
No drama. I watched it when it's point to point at Chaddesley, English point to point.
Yep.
I was there. I, at the time, trained the half-brother, Monty Bodkin. And so I went to look at it, and it was all crooked in front. And I thought, best of luck to you. We'll send it to the sales, and it made a lot of money. And I thought, no. If there's one tip I'll give anyone that wants to own a racehorse, buy the one with crooked front legs, because they're always the best. I seriously believe that. But they're cheaper at the sales, they've got ability, and they give you everything for a certain amount of time.
It's a challenging race. I mean, I've had a champion bumper winner, but I've had some of the races ruined. 100% they've ruined them. So you've got to have the right temperament at that young age to be able to run in that race. And is the filly, the JP Pot, still the favourite?
No, Coca Cabana's the favourite.
Is that the Caroline Tyndall one?
In fact, the
No,
JP
that's
Aquaforce,
second
that's the one you're
Is that the one? Yeah.
Aquaforce,
I was offered that. I didn't buy it. I mean, she was a 6-year-old bumper horse, which wouldn't be my normal pattern of buying. But I think, you're right. It's always a very open race. I remember when Champagne Fever won it, I think he opened at 4-1 and drifted to 16-1 and then won. It can be anything. And it's probably more than likely that a Willie horse will win it, but whichever one it is, sorry, it's not a race I would bet in.
Champagne Fever, of course. It still remains one of the wonders of the modern world, how he didn't win the Arkle.
Shocking, yeah. Every time I watch it, I still think he does.
Best horse in the race, jumps every fence immaculately and gets beaten by something that's absolutely useless.
Never ran again, that horse.
Western Warhorse. Yeah. Templegate, have you come up with anything already?
Well, I thought Calypso Chance ran well at Navan last time, still a bit green and will improve a bit. About 6-1, I think.
Meg, what about Dad's horse? How good is it?
Yeah, they think he's very talented. He's got a great mind. The occasion won't bother him. Dad's looking for his 50th Cheltenham winner. And Cheltenham has this weird thing of, like, making magic happen. And he's owned by the Barbers and the McNeil family. And if Dad could have his 50th Cheltenham winner in anyone's colours, he'd say Paul Barbers. And so I'm hoping that he could do it. But
not John Hills.
No, I think I think I'm sticking with what I'm saying. Paul ultimately gave Dad the opportunity. He trains at his facility, and yeah, I mean, John Hills has been an incredible friend and owner to Dad as well. But Paul Barber's like another father to him, so I'm gonna stick with that.
I like that. Stuck with your guns.
Yeah,
Brave.
I stuck to my guns. Copacabana is rated extremely high in the Mullins camp, and yesterday Ruby was absolutely raving about him and wasn't too concerned about any of the other sort of entries from the yard. So it's that he's only had one run. Obviously, a couple more have further experience, but it sounds like he's a pretty speedy horse, and that was their sort of pick of the Willie entries.
Another of our owners going over to Willie Mullins, isn't it? Copacabana, Edward, who lost his really good flat horse,
Top two in the market.
Poker Face the other day. Yeah, game of Professor Tisdall usually goes over here as well. Now all going to Willie Mullins. Everyone goes to Willie Mullins. Patrick, who wins the bumper quickly?
I don't think Game of Inches can win this race. I watched him win at Fairy House, I think it was. He's 18 hands, massive, hits the ground really hard. Look, Megan was with Ruby yesterday. That's his pick. Can you pronounce Cocobana, is that it?
Copacabana.
And then we had Keelan Woods on the show today. He really likes Keelan and Fergal's massive each way price. But Matt, the more you look through this bumper, I'm not saying it's a bad race, but I've seen better Cheltenham bumpers, haven't you?
I agree.
I think it's a race that until it's run, you never quite know.
No.
Yeah.
At a massive price of
Yes.
about 25 to 1, I wouldn't totally rule out Idaho's Sun for Harry Fry. He went very green at Newton Abbot on debut, beating a decent filly called Supreme Malinas, who went and won a listed race since. He then beat her by further when they met again at Windsor. He is untried on better ground, but Harry has a small select team, and when he targets horses, he normally isn't a million miles off, and they think plenty of him. And if you're looking to have a, it's an open race, big price horses do run into the frame often, and if you're looking for an each way shot, I thought Idaho's Sun at 25 to 1 was a sensible angle.
Idaho's Sun, who's got Cheltenham relations because the dam is related to Lord Windermere, who won the Cheltenham Gold Cup. For what it's worth, and I do think it's a lottery, I think Calypso Chance is pretty useful. 3 wins for Jigginstown. They like a bumper horse. The 2 wins were quite impressive. Point-to-point form looks quite good. I think Calypso Chance will certainly be there or thereabouts. And although we always talk about Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott does know how to land this kind of event as well. So I'm going to be with Calypso Chance. Right, we're going to refill our glasses and come back reinvigorated for days 3, 4 and the handicaps. Just a quick reminder, remember to put all our selections in the Placepot, and don't forget all the exactors as well, because we're here with the Tote. We'll be back.